Good afternoon and welcome to your 4 to 5. I'm Maddie Gardner, joined by Tahisha Moise and Eric Chilton, who are both working from home.
Hey, don't forget, this is an interactive show. We want to chat with you. We are live on Facebook right now to keep this kind of back and forth thing going. We don't talk at you, we talk with you on the 4 to 5.
Yes, and if you post on social media, use that hashtag 4 to 5 to stay connected. All right, let's get into our top headlines of the day.
Yes, moments ago, Governor Roy Cooper and his coronavirus task force gave an update on the state's fight against the virus. Today, he signed a new executive order that will prevent evictions for any North Carolinian who cannot afford to pay rent. The governor also encouraged anyone who is struggling to pay rent to apply for the NC Hope program. You can call 211 to find out more information. Cooper says the worst of COVID-19 is not over and cases continue to rise in our state. Contact tracers found that many cases are actually coming from small gatherings in North Carolina, and they're encouraging anyone who is meeting with someone outside of their household to wear a mask.
We too often let our guard down when we're with people we know and trust. But knowing and trusting doesn't stop the virus. Today, we need people to hear us loud and clear. If you're gathered with anyone who does not live in your household, you are at risk, and they are too.
Today's numbers explain the governor's warning. We saw more than 2,250 new cases today, the highest since Saturday. More than 1,190 people are in the hospital with the virus. Our daily percent of positive cases is also still high, with about 6.9% of tests coming back positive.
And as our number of cases continue to rise here locally, school districts are still figuring out their reentry plans. Last night, the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Board of Education approved a reentry plan that would bring kids back to the classroom starting on November 2nd. It would be a phased-in approach. Pre-K would return on the 2nd, kindergarten would come back on November 9th, and first graders would head back to the class on November 16th. The board will decide about reentry for other grade levels at their next meeting on November 17th.
Well, you know, there's a data breach we just found out at the Triad Community College. Now, this could have affected thousands of current and former students. We're talking about Guilford Technical Community College, GTCC. They said they were hit with a ransomware attack. This happened in mid-September. GTCC, state agencies, cybersecurity experts, and the FBI are investigating this. They have determined that some people's personal information was taken. They haven't released what type of information or exactly who it will impact. GTCC officials say they've contacted anyone that could be potentially affected.
I know they were telling us to change our passwords and stuff after the fact, but they, like I said, they never told us the severity of it.
Whoever has been affected and their personal information has been received, I feel bad. That's not fair, and that's definitely not okay.
So GTCC says they will offer anybody affiliated with the college credit monitoring and identity restoration services for 1 year.
Publix is expanding here in Greensboro. The grocery store chain tells us they'll be adding on to their distribution center. The distribution center isn't built yet, but Publix just started building it back in February and say it's expected to be done in late 2022. Publix says they will offer about 1,000 jobs at the center once it's finished. But they're not the only company offering jobs in the Triad. From UPS, Amazon, even a few local school districts are all looking to hire. So if you need a job, find this story on WFMYnews2.com.
Weather-wise, everybody talking about what will happen during the day tomorrow. That's kind of our active weather day over the next 7 days, really. And some big changes coming up for your weekend, too. But let's start out with tonight. Overnight lows fairly mild, 62 degrees. We'll see some showers develop. The wind will start to pick up. And really, I think this is as much of a wind event as it is anything heading into your Thursday. Look for winds 10 to 15, gusting to 20 or 30. That's tonight, overnight. And then tomorrow, they're out of the south, 20 to 30, but gusting up to 40 to maybe even 55 miles per hour. When you look at this from an impact standpoint, it is kind of a moderate to high risk for wind with those gusts up to 55 possible. Could see some power outages as a result of that. Low risk is the tornado risk. a possibility, but it's very slight. And then flooding could be minor, but still it's a half an inch to maybe 2 inches as you head north and west. Here's a look at the rain forecast for you. Right over the heart of the triad, you're looking at maybe a half an inch up to 1.5 inches or so. But once you get north and west of the triad into the mountain communities, that's a 2 to 4 inch rain event, and that can be fairly significant across the area. Again, wind gusts as high as 55 miles per hour. If you're looking in the mountain communities, those wind gusts anywhere from that 40 to 55 and maybe even higher in some of the higher elevations. We'll talk about the rest of our forecast, give you a little Halloween outlook too. What will that look like on Saturday? We'll have that coming up.
All right, let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup right now. Hopes of a new stimulus deal before Election Day appear to be dashed. President Donald Trump conceded yesterday that a new coronavirus relief deal would not happen until after Election Day. Republicans and Democrats disagree on the size of the next stimulus package. The Senate is adjourned for its latest recess until November 9th. President Trump and his Democratic challenger, Joe Biden, are making their final pitches as we enter the last 6 days of the 2020 presidential race. Joe Biden is focused on the coronavirus pandemic during the final stretch of the election. The former vice president does not have any rally scheduled for today, something President Trump pointed out during a campaign stop in Nebraska last night. In the meantime, the president will travel to 10 states this week, including Arizona today. He'll start in Bullhead City, just across the border from Nevada, a state limiting the size of public gatherings because of COVID. And more than 50% of voters in North Carolina have already cast their ballot. Combined with more than 831,000 mail-in ballots, more than 3.7 million North Carolinians have already voted. There are 4 more days left in early voting, and if you haven't voted early yet, you should expect some longer lines. Election officials say the final few days of the early voting period are typically the busiest days. If you aren't registered to vote, early voting is your only option right now. You can register at early voting locations. Early voting ends at 3 p.m. on Saturday.
Students not going to school means buses are not on the roads and bus drivers aren't behind the wheel. But one bus driver in Guilford County didn't idle. Instead, he's taking his talents from the roadways to the hallways of Colfax Elementary.
The bus drivers, when we thought we were going back to school, but the drivers didn't have any work, they asked us to go find work at the schools. So, I signed up for Colfax, or I called Kimsey and told her I was going to sign up for Colfax. And
Marcus Thompson reached out to Principal Julie Kimsey. Her first thought was to have him spruce up some old murals.
She sent me a text back and said, well, can you paint?
And over the years, with lots of wear and tear and lots of little people rubbing book bags up against them, they've sustained some damage.
I sent her a text back and said, well, yeah, I could paint your house, your car. I could probably even paint you a reasonable facsimile of a Monet if you needed me to. And she laughed and she thought it was funny. And I was only half kidding.
Thompson isn't just a bus driver. He's a classically trained artist with experience in graphic design. Over the last few months, he's been dabbling in his past.
There's a little one, down a hallway.
But so creating for the future.
7. So we're working on number 8 at this point.
Painting murals across the school.
It's been a way to brighten this environment. It's a way to, to give back. People don't, there are a lot of things they're not smiling about. But, I think when you go down and see a couple of the murals, you can't help but smile.
Once all students return, Thompson will hit the road again. But the next time he drops students off at school and says goodbye, something he created will be inside to say hello. And this morning when I spoke to Thompson, he was working on his latest project. It's a Viking inside one of the school's gyms, but it will actually be used to measure a student's height. It has a measuring stick with it. Principal Kimsey there says they will take advantage of his talents as long as they have him on campus. But how funny is that he just reached out to the principal guys and he said, hey, I'd like to help out around the school. She said, well, can you paint? He sure can. He can paint very well.
That was kind of a lucky guess there. Just say, oh, can you paint? Well, as a matter of fact, I'm classically trained. Yeah, you don't run into that very often. And his work, really good. And I love his attitude. In fact, you just listen to his voice and you just hear that this guy is just happy to help out and to do something that brightens everybody's day, especially for the little ones.
Yeah, and I love that latest mural that he's working on, because when the kids are back in school, they're going to be all up against that wall trying to measure their height and say, hey, I'm taller than you by half an inch.
One of my favorite stories, he said all through grade school, K through 12, he would always get written on his report cards, you could be so smart and bright, but you doodle too much. And he said he got in trouble for doodling in the classroom, and now he's doodling on classrooms. Full circle moment.
I understand that. I talk too much on my report cards. Here am I talking on the news. All right, Mom, it worked out. All right, coming up here on your 4 to 5, Halloween is just a few days away, and with coronavirus cases still rising in our state, it'll be important that you are doing things to keep your family safe. So we actually have some tips and tricks to share with you on the other side of the break. We'll be right back.
Well, Halloween 2020 will not be like any Halloween we've seen before. Now, despite the fact that it's on Saturday, everybody was excited about that. Of course, the coronavirus pandemic, that sort of makes it difficult, a little more challenging for kids to have more of a fun trick-or-treating event while staying safe at the same time.
Absolutely. Really, the best thing that people can do is to make sure that those Halloween events happen outside.
Yes, and the CDC is also releasing a list of recommendations for parents this year. Here are a few items on the list. First off, avoid direct contact with trick-or-treaters. Give out treats outdoors if possible. Set up a station with individually bagged treats for kids to take. Wash your hands before handling treats, and of course, wear a mask. And I know things are going to be a little bit different this year, but if you got kids and they're dressing up, please post on social media. Use that hashtag 4 to 5 so we can see what everyone is dressing up as this year.
Yeah, a lot of neighborhoods still doing it, just doing it safely, and I think that's kind of the thing to do, just keep that distance and do things the right way. I also hear that most people are putting out, or at least in my neighborhood, they're putting out the big bowls with individually wrapped baskets so people can just take, or I'm sorry, little packages rather, that people can just pick up and take.
Yeah, very smart move there. I think it's going to take a little bit more effort on the front end, but it will be worth it on the back end if we take some extra safety precautions. I was telling Eric this morning, I was driving through Lindley Park park in Greensboro earlier this week, and I saw a house fully decorated, and they had made one of those candy chutes. So you can throw the candy down a PVC pipe and the trick-or-treater can grab it that way. Very cool.
That's a perfect way to do it.
All right, so if you are looking for Halloween plans, we have an event to tell you about. It's a safe way to celebrate, a drive-through candy giveaway. It's happening this Saturday. You can go to the Candy Drive-Thru in Winston-Salem. It starts at 7 p.m. off of Butler Street. The first 80 cars will each get a big bag of candy. Let us know your Halloween plans in the comments section of our live stream on the WFMY News 2 Facebook page. We'll see you there.
Phone. Why is it dark? Yeah, I saw it go dark when I put my hand up to the screen. It's like it auto iris down and then didn't readjust. Hold on a sec. Exposure, maybe that's it. Well, we'll take a look at our radar, and across the region we have seen scattered showers, a lot of them light at this time, but then now we're starting to see it change a little bit. You'll see some areas of heavier rains. We're seeing that right around the Reedy Creek area, really from east of Moxville heading over to northern Davidson County. The rain really isn't the major story with this, though. It's really more of a wind situation. And again, most of the wind is overnight tonight and into tomorrow during the day. By tomorrow evening, hopefully, we'll see some of that relax a little bit. This is associated with the hurricane down toward Louisiana, ZETA there, but the remnants of that really moves fast, by the way. That's one thing we've noticed with this system. All of that kind of converges over our area. The wind gusts could go upwards of 40 to 55 miles per hour tomorrow. You look at the rain totals, maybe 3/4 of an inch in the heart of the triad, but it goes up pretty quickly, maybe an inch, inch and a half toward Forsyth County, maybe even 2 to 4 in the mountain communities. That's a significant amount of rain, especially for the higher elevations. With the winds upwards of that 40 to 55 mile an hour gust range that we talked about for tomorrow, we see that high wind watch in effect for the mountain communities until 8 p.m. tomorrow night, and also till 8 p.m. a wind advisory across the triad. All of that just basically means a rainy, windy day, very windy actually. We could see some power outages. That'll be for Thursday. Then Friday, that colder air starts to rush back in. We'll take a look at our long-range forecast coming up.
Did Anthony Fauci find that face masks could cause bacterial pneumonia back in 2008? Well, that is the core of a viral claim you may have seen floating around on social media. Our Verify team is breaking this claim down for you. Here's our Jason Puckett.
Let's start with the claims. They say in 2008, Dr. Anthony Fauci co-authored a study that found most of the deaths in the Spanish flu of 1918 weren't from the influenza virus, but rather from bacterial pneumonia. Quote, why did that happen? Masks, it says. So let's verify. Did Dr. Fauci publish a study that said masks led to bacterial pneumonia deaths during the Spanish flu? Our main source is the actual study being referenced here and other statements from Fauci published by the National Institute of Health. Now, the viral claim does get a few things right. The study was published in 2008 and it was co-authored by Dr. Anthony Fauci. And it did find that, quote, the majority of deaths in the 1918-1919 influenza pandemic likely resulted from secondary bacterial pneumonia. But the rest of the viral claim is false, and here's why. The claim says the pneumonia was the result of wearing a face mask, but the paper doesn't say that. In fact, we searched all 16 pages. Masks aren't even mentioned even once. This paper does give an explanation for how bacterial pneumonia caused so many deaths back then. They call it viral bacterial copathogenesis. Big name. Basically, it's a 1-2 punch caused by the influenza virus and bacterial pneumonia together. The paper explains that the virus would cause damage to the lungs and respiratory systems, and then bacteria would enter the damaged areas and cause pneumonia. Since penicillin, the first antibiotic, wasn't discovered until 10 years later, a bacterial infection like pneumonia was much more fatal in 1918. But bottom line, this study never mentions masks and never links them to bacterial pneumonia. So this claim is false. With your Verify, I'm Jason Puckett.
And guys, that's one of the tricky things when you retweet or reshare things on Facebook, talking about studies when you haven't seen it for yourself, right? 16 pages and that thing in the mask not even in there.
Absolutely. You really do have to be careful. And, that's why we have a verified team here at WFMY News 2, because a lot of things, a lot of misinformation that can be dangerous, easily spreads on social media. We call it clickbait.
Isn't it funny how one click can make such a difference that you might just glance over this and then say, I'll share that, and you don't realize the effect that it can have on millions of people, really, who read stuff like this. But thank goodness, really, honestly, you're right, Maddie. The Verify team does a great job, and that's why we do that, so we can help dispel some of those myths.
Yes, always let us know if you have something that you need verified, and let us know what you're chatting about on the 4 to 5 live stream. Use our hashtag 4 to 5 to join our conversation today. We'll see you there.
You know, it seems that every day we're reminded, it seems like almost every day, what our first responders are doing out there. But today is actually a day to recognize them. In case you didn't know, it is National First Responders Day. So I asked you on Facebook, give me in just 5 words what first responders mean to you and to all of us. So here's a look at some of them. My buddy Kevin Pack said, ready at a moment's notice. That's a good one there. Les Rose says, thank God for their dedication. Beverly says, the best work of compassion. MD Moore comments almost every day on our page here, says incredibly tireless men and women, and says the best they'll ever be. And Teresa said angels God put on earth. I think everybody is kind of in agreement that the work that they do is incredible. And by the way, you know, when we post these things, I always like to see how many people post and how much time and that type of thing. My Facebook, that particular post was lit up with hundreds in a matter of a few hours. So it means something to people. I think that's why they respond so quickly and in such big numbers.
Yeah, I think, you know, with so much strife out there, so much disagreement on social media, it's nice just to come together for one moment and thank these men and women who go out of their way to help others, especially during this pandemic. You know, first responders didn't have time off. They couldn't work from home. They were still on the front lines every single day.
Right. When I was thinking of what my 5 words would be, it's like going above and beyond for others, because I mean, just the heart that you have to go into those fields in healthcare and being a firefighter and police officers. Clearly, this isn't about you. This is what you're trying to give back to society. So I thank all of our first responders.
Very well said. All right, the 4 to 5 is heading to break, but you know, we don't go anywhere. We are always live on social media, so join us there.
Hi, ice cold milk and an Oreo cookie, they forever go together. They're so good, I'll bring them in.
I got nervous. Good Wednesday afternoon and welcome back to your 4 to 5. I'm Maddie Gardner along with Tahisha Moise and Eric Chilton, still working from home. The gang is all here today.
Yeah, that's right. And don't forget, we're live on Facebook right now. If you're not on Facebook watching our conversation, I'm just going to say you miss out. So you need to jump in as soon as possible.
And if you feel you want to just post a comment on social media and you want us to see it in general, just use that hashtag 4 to 5 to stay connected. Eric, when is that rain heading out of here?
Yeah, we're watching this. The rain's probably going to get a little worse before it gets better. Temperatures aren't so bad right now. We're seeing most temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. If you look across the map, you have to go to Burlington or south of Burlington and east to get into the 70s. But 67 in Greensboro and Winston-Salem, 68 in High Point, not bad. Mount Airy's at 67 and Wilkesboro at 64 degrees. Now, when you look at the rain, most of it so far has been in our northwest communities, but everybody has a little bit of this. It is widely scattered across the area with some isolated pockets of heavier rain in the Moxville area, now moving into northern Davidson County and southern Forsyth, but we still have a lot more to go. So you could see anywhere from maybe half an inch to an inch in the Triad upwards to 2+ if you go all the way up to the mountains, and it kind of graduates up higher as you go north and west. It will be very windy. That's the biggest takeaway from this, folks, as we head into the overnight period and most of the day tomorrow. You could see wind gusts 20 to 30 miles per hour, maybe even higher overnight. Some of those wind gusts could go up to 40 to 55 miles per hour for tomorrow. Now, the rain will gradually clear us with that cold front coming in on Friday, and it makes a huge difference for our forecast. 78 for the high Thursday, but we drop down 14 degrees for a high on Friday of 64. It's a cool, let's call it what it is. It is a cold Halloween. Sunshine 55 for the high, and the low Saturday night 40. On Sunday, a few clouds and 60 for a high.
Let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup right now. Hurricane ZETA is growing stronger and is speeding towards a storm-weary Louisiana. It is the 27th named storm in a historically busy Atlantic hurricane season. It's expected to hit as a Category 2 storm south of New Orleans this afternoon with life-threatening storm surge and strong winds. Evacuees from earlier storms are on edge. New Orleans officials are working to make sure there is enough electricity to run the city's aging draining pumps after a generating turbine broke down. For the first time since 1988, the LA Dodgers are now your World Series champions. They beat the Tampa Bay Rays 3-1 in Game 6. It was a 2020 season, unprecedented challenges for all involved right up until its final game. Dodgers starting third baseman Justin Turner was pulled prior to the 8th inning after receiving the results of a positive COVID-19 test mid-game. He returned to the field to celebrate the win after the game. He was posing next to the manager and was standing in front of the team. He even took a picture with the trophy without his mask. MLB officials say he violated coronavirus protocol, and they are now launching an investigation. Publix is expanding its distribution center in Greensboro to include a dry grocery warehouse. Store officials say the addition will add more than 1.2 million square feet of space. The entire distribution center is expected to be completed by the end of 2022. That's 3 years ahead of schedule. 1,000 jobs are expected to be available. And drug maker Pfizer plans to apply for emergency use authorization from the FDA in November for its COVID-19 vaccine once safety milestones are met. The company is one of the leaders in the race to develop a vaccine against COVID. It is now in its final stage of the trial. 44,000 people are enrolled in the study, and nearly 36,000 participants have received the second shot of the 2-dose vaccine. The trial includes people as young as 12 and those with chronic stable HIV, hepatitis C, and hepatitis B.
Today's COVID-19 data for North Carolina is concerning the state's task force. We saw more than 2,250 new cases today. That's the highest it's been since Saturday. More than 1,190 people are in the hospital with the virus, and our daily percent of positive cases is also still high. About 6.9% of those tests are coming back positive. Moments ago, Governor Roy Cooper gave an update on the state's fight against the virus, warning that everyone still needs to take proper precautions.
Let's remember that our economy will only be as strong as our efforts to stamp out this virus. A recovery depends on elected officials and everybody else taking this virus seriously and doing our part to prevent the spread as we work toward a vaccine and more effective treatments.
Around the country, things aren't much better. The U.S. just recorded its worst week for new cases since the pandemic started. More than 500,000 new COVID-19 infections. Numbers are rising in 43 states, including here in North Carolina. In Wisconsin, new records were set for cases, hospitalizations, and deaths on Tuesday. Illinois is now averaging more new coronavirus cases per day than at any other point in the pandemic. And in Chicago, the daily increase in COVID-related hospitalizations has more than doubled since October began. The governor is shutting down all indoor dining starting on Friday.
Chicago seemed to have this more under control than other regions of Illinois, but that's no longer the case.
Roughly 1/3 of all new cases are coming from the Midwest.
Well, President Trump and his Democratic challenger Joe Biden are making their final pitches ahead of Election Day. Biden is focused on the pandemic during the final stretch here, and we are into that final stretch, while President Trump is traveling to 10 states this week to hold different rallies. The former vice president does not have any rally scheduled for today, something President Trump pointed out during a campaign stop in Nebraska last night.
Joe Biden doesn't even respect you enough to campaign. He never came here, right? Did he come here? Oh.
I will put in place the plan to deal with this pandemic responsibly, bringing this country together with testing, tracing, and masking.
With 6 days to go until Election Day, national security officials expect election interference efforts to go on the increase. They are warning voters to be cautious about what they read online. And one of the many stops President Trump is making is one here in North Carolina. The president will arrive at the Fayetteville Airport this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. for a Make America Great Again rally. Doors for the event open at 3:30. A ticket is required for this. Yesterday, Vice President Mike Pence made a stop here at the Greensboro Airport.
If you plan to early vote, you are running out of time. Early voting is set to end here in North Carolina on Saturday. But it is important to note that not every polling place or every county offers weekend hours. So you'll want to check the hours with your specific polling place in your county that you want to go to. You can also go to any early voting location as long as it is in the county that you are registered to vote in. You can look up where those polling places are and their hours on WFMY News 2.com.
All right, check it out, check it out, check it out. I got the sticker and the pen for the win. Hey, Maddie, I know you are jealous.
I am jealous, Tanya, because this is a brag right here. Just rubbing it in. She got a sticker. I only got a pin, but I'm happy with the pin. So thank you, Board of Elections.
Okay. You see lots of pics like this, or people smiling right with their sticker. Did you take one?
I sure did take a picture of my 2020 election pin.
But you didn't take the hey, I voted, here's my pen sticker. Okay, it's a thing, right? People do it. I've done, the whole thing, because you want to say I've done this whole thing, which is why people often want to take a picture of their ballot too. But that's a no-no. In fact, it's a no-no in a lot of different places. Let's take a look. It's a no-no in North Carolina and 18 other states. Check out this map from the Business Insider. All the purple states ban pictures of your completed ballot. The yellow states only allow photos of mailed ballots. And the green states, well, they allow you to take pictures, and some of them even allow you to post them. Yeah, it's in their law. So why do some states ban it while others, like California, not only made it a law, but made it, part of their law that you're allowed to post it on any kind of social media? Well, we're going to take a look tonight at 6 o'clock. Well, with Election Day and voting on all our minds, there are 2 school-related bonds on the ballot in Guilford County. One is a $300 million bond. This is for new school facilities, improving existing ones, as well as furnishings and equipment. Now, the other one is a 1/4% local sales tax, and this would raise to help pay for the repairs and renovations of Guilford County school buildings. So we know you have a lot of questions. How are they going to use the money? Why do they need the money? When does all this happen? We have Guilford County school leaders and the county manager for Guilford County to talk about these 2 items on the ballot. You can text your questions to them at 336-379-5775. Right there on the bottom of your screen. It's over there too. Hey, remember, this is a text only, no calling of these questions.
Wake Forest football is getting national attention this week after walk-on freshman Nick Anderson had 3 interceptions in Saturday's home game against Virginia Tech. WFMY News 2's Amanda Ferguson finds out more about the new star from his high school coach.
They were calling him Rudy.
This doesn't happen often. A player carried on the field like this. But it's not every day a player has 3 picks in a game.
Intercepted! Nick Anderson!
Let alone a walk-on true freshman.
My first of 3.
Wake Forest defensive back Nick Anderson did that in Saturday's game against Virginia Tech.
He's just a tough-nosed, hard, smart kid. Nasty, violent, fast, physical, all those attributes. I mean, that's what he is.
Nick's from Virginia, played for Centerville High School. His coach, John Shields, says he had some college offers.
I think it was just a challenge to him, and he went down to a program, again, that academics are huge to him, you know, and to his family and that type of stuff. And then just the opportunity to play in the ACC, and he loved Wake.
We liked him, and we offered him a preferred walk-on spot. And fortunately for us, he took it.
He's always kind of taken full advantage of everything that he's done.
The freshman walk-on Nick Anderson.
Coach Shields says his guys are already looking up to Nick.
They look at, hey, you know, he got an opportunity. Maybe he didn't get the scholarship initially there, but he got an opportunity, and we can do that too. It's kind of that attitude that's been going on this week.
As for his current team, the Deeks are working on that scholarship.
They were chanting Scully, Scully, so I think we'll definitely be taking care of that next semester.
Wake got a steal, really good soccer player, tremendous basketball player. You know, he's a really good athlete. He's a legitimate scholarship football player.
An inspiring story, especially this year with kids in the Triad not playing football right now. Some concerned about getting a scholarship, but this is a good example. Nick didn't have one at Wake Forest, got an opportunity, and didn't let it go to waste. And here we are. He's got a scholarship.
You know, it's interesting. So the kid was second on the team in tackles after only 5 games. He had 33 tackles, and Amanda brought that up about scholarship. They asked Coach Clausen about that. They said, what about he's not on scholarship, Coach? He said, we'll be taking care of that.
Right, because the whole team literally lifted him up in the air, chanting for him to get a scholarship. I mean, I would expect one after 3 interceptions. That's impressive.
Right. As a walk-on, I can imagine that day is going to be one that he doesn't forget for a long time. And when he gets older, that's going to be the story that he'll love to tell.
Yes, congratulations to him and to the Deacons. All right, the 4 to 5 is coming right back. Stick around.
You know, we've all heard the old saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure, of course. Well, that motto applies here. I found one of the coolest projects that I've ever seen. It's all happening over at the Paul Senior Botanical Gardens in Kernersville. They are living that motto. Take a look. Well, Adrian, when I first saw these pictures, I said, this cannot be made out of a plastic bottle. Let's talk about how you came up with this idea and then what's going to happen to it later.
Sure. So I've been visiting botanical gardens for years and years and years, and I always visit during the Christmas display. And, you know, we have a small budget, we're a nonprofit, and so having a grand Christmas display is just, it's not in the cards. But I saw a video of recycled plastic and turned into flowers. And so I gave my volunteers some ideas and they went with it, and lo and behold, this is what they came up with.
So talk about that process. How do you make a bottle into a flower? And we've got some pictures we're showing.
Sure. So the best thing to use is a 16-ounce bottle. Just start with a 16-ounce liter bottle and then cut it in half. And then what happens is you save the bottoms and you save the tops. And so the tops, 2 tops make 1 flower, 2 bottoms make 1 flower. Because tulips are 6-petaled. And so what we do is we take the bottles and we make 3 petals out of each bottle. So then when you put 2 bottles together, then you have 6 petals.
So I have to tell you, your volunteers are so good because as you're describing that, they're doing little show and tell behind you. Talk about what this will look like in the long run. What will we see when we go out there?
So last year at this time, the girls had made 2,300 plastic flowers, all looking like tulips. And this year, we've added about 2,000 more, and including about 50 or 100 sunflowers, foxgloves, lotus, magnolias. We take a soldering iron and melt a hole in the middle of the flower, and then we insert the light in it. When that light is illuminated, the plastic with the spray paint makes the flowers look like glass. It's absolutely magical.
Well, we can't wait to see this. You guys are doing incredible work, and make sure you send us some pictures when you finish everything. It looks great. Very cool. Can't wait to see it. If you need more information, just look for this story on WFMYnews2.com. We've linked you to them. They're doing some good work out there, but the ladies in the back were killing me. They were showing everything that she talked about, and I was dying.
Yes, 2 things about that story that I absolutely loved. One was the woman in the back holding up the plastic bottles, and she had no idea what was going on behind her. So good. And then the yellow arrow that our editor put in later. Very nice. The second part was the reveal when you showed the picture of all of them lit up. That was breathtaking. That's really beautiful.
Right. It's so impressive. You know, earlier in this week, I was talking in one of my 2 cents about reusing things that you have around in your house. I mean, plenty of us have plastic bottles that we can turn into art, apparently.
I'm very impressed. I want y'all to hold up things in the background of me now. Like, can you do that? Chilton, why aren't you doing it? Thank you. There we go.
Yes.
We'll be right back.
Can you hear in my audio, can you hear like a scratching sound behind me? They quit doing it. Okay, never mind. The twins are cleaning their bathroom, but it sounds so funny, and it was loud. Yeah, well, they're not doing it now. I was going to reference it, but you can't hear it. So it looks like you will need the rain gear for the next day and a half, or maybe even two here as we watch this system move by. You notice the radar now, it's kind of scattered light to moderate showers across the triad, mostly in like the northwest. If you split the triad diagonally, it's kind of from that area to the north and west. Yet this is all just kind of a couple of systems converging over us, the moisture from Hurricane Zeta, and then plus you see the frontal boundary. All of that will push by over the next day. The biggest issue with this, we could see some rain, maybe half an inch to an inch and a half across the triad, maybe even 1 to 3 in the mountains. But the bigger issue would be wind, because we do see the wind gusts tomorrow going up to 40 to 55 miles per hour. After that, cooler on Friday at 64, a cold Halloween with 55 and clear skies, at least for trick-or-treating if you're doing that. Sunday, slight chance of rain with a high of 60 degrees.
The late Whitney Houston has earned her 3rd Diamond certified album, becoming the first Black artist to do so. Her sophomore album, Whitney, earned Diamond status, which means selling more than 10 million albums. Her self-titled 1985 debut album and 1992's The Bodyguard soundtrack were already Diamond successes. So today on Facebook, I wanted to continue the conversation. So I asked you, what song of Whitney's is your favorite? I know it's hard to choose just one. She has so many. Torian Brasher says, I Want to Dance with Somebody is my favorite song, as well as my 3-year-old daughters. Pamela Pink says, The Greatest Love of All. That was my class song when I graduated from Northwest Guilford High School in 1986. It holds a special place in my heart. Shannon Miller says, Run to You. Oh, how I love Whitney and miss her. Yes, me too. Carol Miller says, I Will Always Love You. Ruth and Albert Johnson say Greatest Love of All and Run to You, though I also love her version of I Will Always Love You, and I have never cried during the Star-Spangled Banner like I did when she sang it. And Mary Jane Hardman, she just writes the comment everyone wants to write is just all of them, right? I know it's really hard to pick. I was on Spotify all morning listening to all of the songs, and then here's what took me back. Is When You Believe, when she did that with Mariah Carey, that just took me back to my childhood. I had a dance recital song to dance to that song.
Yeah, I would have to say, if you're talking about the upbeat Whitney songs, then for me it's I Want to Dance with Somebody. And then the slow ones, I like the One Moment in Time, which was in the Olympics in 1984.
Higher Love, So Emotional, I Want to Dance with Somebody. The list can go on, but we have to go to break. WFMY News 2 at 5 is next.
Well, then I guess I hope it looks good.
Hi there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Hi there, Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas.
Callie, 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 Callie.
Yes, new hope for people facing eviction because of the
A Cone Health infectious disease specialist tells me even though we're seeing those unprecedented
It's time for my 2 cents. Okay, we are less than 1 week away from Election Day. And over the last few days, I've been doing some research about the Electoral College because that's what journalists do in their off time. And I feel it's only right to do my due diligence. I'm not here to give you a civics lesson, but I thought it could be interesting to just share a few facts because I'm all about being informed. So what is the Electoral College? Well, it's a temporary group of electors equal to the total number of representatives in Congress, 538. Here in North Carolina, we get 15 electoral votes. So technically, the electors vote for the president, and to win the presidency, a candidate has to get at least 270 of the 538 available votes. Now, I don't want you to think that your vote doesn't count, because it does. How you vote determines how the electors in your state will vote. Whichever candidate gets the most votes in your state gets the state's share of electoral votes. But not in Maine or Nebraska. They do things a little differently. Now, more often than not, the person who gets most of the American citizens' votes ends up winning the presidency, but not always. Remember, in 2016, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but Donald Trump won the election. Same for Al Gore in 2000, but George W. Bush went to the White House. So I'm curious to see how things will shake out this year. Okay, maybe I did give you a little civics lesson, but I only scratched the surface. There is still so much to know, and I encourage you to look up some information for yourself. The more you know, right? Form your own opinion. That's just my 2 cents. That's your 4 to 5. WFMY News 2 at 5 starts right now.